Yes, du har min friend and welcome to another unscripted review. This time it is a half of a member request video. I've got the chance of having YouTube members now. If you want to become a member and have a say in the direction the channel might take in the near future, there is nothing easier than to go to my channel and click the join button and start requesting videos. And other than that, of course, you'll have other perks like different badges and things like that. Well, it's going to be fun. Anyway, a member asked me about my beginning as a Tolkien fan and when I read The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings for the first time. And actually, I had quite an interesting beginning. I read The Hobbit for the first time when I was 7, and then I read it again for the first time when I was 8. Well, it doesn't compute, you say. Well, it does. I read the novel The Hobbit for the first time when I was 8 years old, but a year before that I got The Hobbit graphic novel as a gift from my parents. At that time it was a Czech translation of it for birthday, and I stormed through it, and it was the best thing I'd read in my entire life. And of course I discovered that there was a novel and I had to buy it immediately. If you've never heard of this, this came out in the very early 1990s, and it was the first graphic novel or comic book adaptation of any Tolkien's work. And of course it came out before all the films by Peter Jackson. And up to this day, I consider this to be the best Hobbit adaptation of all time, other than the novel, of course. Better than the animated movie, much better than Peter Jackson's Hobbit trilogy. And I treasure it among the best and my dearest adaptations of any Tolkien's works, other than his own original work, of course. And I do belong among the people who adore absolutely Ralph Bakshi's The Lord of the Rings. And this was adapted by Chuck Dixon, or Charles Dixon as it is said here, and it was painted by David Wenzel, or Dave Wenzel, and it was painted, not only drawn. And if you don't know Chuck Dixon, he is one of the most famous contemporary writers of all time. You might have not heard about him because he's mainly, not only, but mainly a comic book writer. He became huge in the 1990s when he worked on such titles as Batman. He is the one and the only, along with his co-worker, the artist Graham Nolan, who created or co-created the Batman villain Bane. He also made the character of Azrael very popular, and he worked, Chuck Dixon, I mean, on such titles as The Punisher. He worked on Conan the Barbarian, even on The Simpsons, and on many other titles. Actually, he is a very prolific writer. He's one of the most prolific comic book writers of all time. He's like a Stephen King of comic books, although he doesn't write horror. He writes many genres, but I would say that his most favorite one, I would say, is action, western, war, crime, comic book novel, so on and so forth. But he's a very good at adaptations. As I said, not only did he write The Hobbit, but also he was working for a long time on the Simpsons comic book adaptation. And David Wenzel, man, if you look at the artwork, just open it here with the scene with the trolls. Look at the trolls. Every single page, every single panel is painted in hand, with paint, actually, not only drawn, not even close or remotely, being done digitally as it is done nowadays. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. What is very special about this particular adaptation is that Um, the words that have been chosen for this graphic novel, for this adaptation, this is Bilbo Baggins here, by the way, are indeed those sentences and utterances, the passages and the words taken from the novel itself, taken from The Hobbit, of course abridged. So it's not really an adaptation per se. When you think about it, if you read an abridged version of a novel, gorgeously illustrated, is it an adaptation or is it an abridged version of it? This is Beorn, look at that. So what is it? What do you think, my friends? Is it an adaptation or is it an abridged version? This is the scene with the spiders in Mirkwood. So you can really look at each and every single panel for hours and hours and enjoy the artwork. And there are only very little, very few passages with the actual narration, because with comic books it is the best when you show what happens, not tell. But there were scenes in the book which required a bit more telling than showing. For example, when the dwarves were apprehended, captured by the wood elves, Thranduil and his elves, and of course Bilbo was waiting in the dungeons and of King Thranduil for a long time. He was wandering and pondering there, while the dwarves were imprisoned, and that is why a little more squares and panels with narration and description in it were required. But other than that, Chuck Dixon, or Charles Dixon as he is called here, was indeed able to more show than tell. But of course, The Hobbit being a novel, it does indeed contain a lot of text, which of course for us novel readers is quite normal. I know people who only and exclusively read comic books and they are not very fond of words, which, I can't really understand because I'm mainly a novel reader. But when I think of my childhood, I think about many things. I think about Star Wars, I think about Batman the Animated Series, I think about many other things. But when I think about my childhood and Tolkien, even before I read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, even before I started, studying Tolkien academically and then was inspired to study Old English and Middle English and become a linguist, really, myself, I think of this. I think of Chuck Dixon and David Wenzel's The Hobbit graphic novel, which I do recommend. It is available in this good, affordable paperback, and you can check it out. And definitely, I do recommend it, even for kids. If you've got a kid who's like 5 or 6 years old and you don't want to give the kid a novel right away, you can get it the graphic novel, so you can check it out, and then it can move on, possibly, to the novel. At the end, you've got some beautiful illustrations without the words, such as probably my favorite one of Bilbo Baggins with Gollum and their riddle competition. So let me know in the comments down below, my friends, if you've known about this graphic novel, if you've read it or not, and what do you think about it. And that will be all. Thank you very much for watching, and namaste.